Hey everybody, Corporate DVS here with Derek's Game World, Hunter.
Nice to be here again, and we actually have a special guest.
Very special.
Who is it? Who is it?
It's one Tommy Tallarico.
Yo!
How you
Hello,
doing?
hello.
How are you?
I'm great. You know, surviving the zombie apocalypse and staying safe.
I mean, I guess we should.
Haven't shaved in a week, haven't got a haircut in a month, and
me too, pal.
You can tell. Yeah. You look like you haven't had a shave in 3 years. Who are you kidding?
He's using the apocalypse as a scapegoat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of.
You know what's funny? Since I've been working from home for about 3 weeks. I think this is the end of it's several weeks. Since I don't have to really go out of the house, I've been experimenting with different shaving, methods. So
right.
I've had a full beard, I've had no beard, I've had a goatee, and now I just have a mustache.
There you go.
Well, I never
Next
thought
week,
you'd
I don't
have a
know.
beard. That was weird.
Hey, it's 2020. Anyway, the obvious we have a guest for the first time, and it's a big one. It's pretty cool to have you on, Tommy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. I think we're gonna modify the typical show in this case to make it a little bit better. I think we'll have a handful. We'll just kind of talk for a little while. I've got some questions. Not all of them are even Intellivision related, but
Great.
Stuff about like that.
What's Intellivision, by the way? I'm not familiar with that. Should I know about that or something?
It's a I don't know, one of them plays videotapes and things,
Remember to rewind them.
And then we'll talk a lot about Amico, I'm sure, and Hunter's got a fair share of questions. I've got some, and then we'll just take it from there. So again, we'll just go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Really cool. I guess the first question I wanted to ask you, it is, I guess, Intellivision related, but how did you wind up, and you've probably answered this a million times, but how did you wind up in your position now?
So it's a great question. And so what happened is, Intellivision was my machine growing up. That was the thing. Like when I think of Intellivision, I literally get tears in my eyes and goosebumps because it reminds me of, growing up playing games with my mom and dad, my younger brother, going over friends' house, coming over my house, just enjoying things. It's some of my great childhood memories are playing that first machine. I'm sure all of us as gamers have those memories. Maybe for you guys, it might have been the NES or the Sega Genesis, depending on your age, right? Or the Super Nintendo. For me, it was Intellivision. And so I was always a huge fan. In fact, I have pictures of me, when I'm 12 years old. I used to take pictures of myself with my Intellivision. Some people would take pictures with their animals. I'd take it like with my TV screen and my high scores. And I would draw levels of Dungeons and Dragons and draw all the logos of all my favorite games. And I drew the Intellivision logo a million different times.
See, that was so cool.
What's that?
That's what was so cool back then. All the imaginative.
Exactly. Used your imagination. I mean, I literally, when I was 12 years old, I used to fantasize about being the president of Intellivision. Like, no joke, right? So you kind of manifest this stuff sometimes.
I'm sure you never thought that would happen.
No, I didn't at the time. No, and then so I became friends as I've been in the game industry now for over 30 years, and you become friends with people in the industry. And when I heard that I didn't even realize that Intellivision was still around, they still existed. So, I ended up becoming friends with the folks who are running Intellivision, and it was a group of 4 people who had started at Intellivision in 1980. So it's, the company still existed. The quick history is Mattel owned Intellivision. They started it. And in 1979, the first machine came out. And then the crash of 84, they were going to sell off the company. And 5 employees said, wait a second, don't just sell it off to anyone. We want to buy it. So they raised $20 million back in 1984,
Wow.
which you can imagine is a huge amount of money. And they purchased the rights. And so Intellivision's kind of been going along this whole time. Into the 90s, they never really did another machine. They were just doing licensing deals and television greatest hits on the DS or the PC or the PlayStation or the Xbox, whatever. They did a plug and play unit, which sold 4 million units in Walmart and Bed Bath and Beyond. And so
that's an impressive number. I wouldn't have thought that.
It's very impressive. People don't realize it because people say, oh, no one knows the Intellivision name. And well, if you're over 40, you know it, just like you would know Atari, right? But yeah, part of our go-to-market strategy is to, let a couple new generations of people know that, the legacy of our company and all the things that we did, we were the first to do. In fact, we have a whole section on our website at intellivisionamico.com. If you go there, you'll see a legacy of firsts, and it's all the things that are like seem like average things in the video game industry that Intellivision was actually the one to bring to the game industry.
Right.
That is like seems commonplace now, but if not for us. But anyway, so I became friends with all those people, and the president at the time, his name was Keith Robinson. He had started in 1980. He worked on some of the Tron games for Intellivision back in the day. He was the lead programmer and designer, and he was a good friend of mine. And we'd go to each other's birthday parties and we'd hang out. And he knew my passion and love for Intellivision. And I had kind of approached him at one point. I said, hey, we should do another machine because I see this huge gaping hole in the industry. That no one's playing games together. Everything's too complicated. Everything's too expensive. Mobile is very solitary, and all of the things that I remember that were the most important to me in my Intellivision memories were the fact that it brought people together. There was no internet back then. Multiplayer gaming has now become a kid in a dark room with his headphones on, right? And that social contact, that couch co-op, is not a focus of any of these hardware companies. And it's the exact opposite of mobile, which is, let's just, it's people losing their everything's just into this. And so, and he thought it was a great idea. And we always, we kind of talked about it for years. And then unfortunately, about 3 years ago, he passed away suddenly of a heart attack. And it was really devastating. And I outreached, and we actually were having a life celebration for him. I don't want to call it a funeral, but a life celebration. And that's when I kind of approached all the other people who I was also friends with. And I said, look, what's going to happen to Intellivision now that Keith's gone? And they're like, I don't know. He was kind of like he was the spark. He was the flame. He was the leader, the person who kept it. And I said, well, look, I want to invite you all over to my house next week. I'll tell you what this idea that I talked to Keith about, that he loved, but let me give you the whole spiel. And they came over, and I decorated my whole house with like Intellivision cartridges and all my Intellivision posters and gear. I mean, I had it the whole room was covered with it, just so they understood my passion. They knew it, but I wanted them to like see it and be it and feel it. And I pitched them the whole idea of Amico, and they loved it. And that's when I said, look, in order for me to be involved, I need full creative control, and I want to be the controlling shareholder and all this. And so and everybody was excited, and that's how it was born. And that was 3 years ago. So that's how I kind of became CEO. There's really kind of 4 co-founders with me. In the first, it was myself and Steve Roney. Steve Roney started at Intellivision in 1981. If you're familiar with any of the old games, it's kind of a funny a funny meme almost at this point, but the game B-17 Bomber, it was like one of the first B-17 Bomber. So that was Steve's game. He did all of the programming and design along with another guy named Bill Fisher, who's also still at Intellivision 40 years ago. He started. So it was me, Steve, and then I brought in my best friend, David Perry, who is a very prolific, person in the game industry. Dave's the guy who created Shiny Entertainment, which of course we did Earthworm Jim. He was a lead programmer for Earthworm Jim. He did the Matrix games. He did the Disney's Aladdin. He was the lead programmer.
Games.
What's that?
The Matrix games. I remember playing so much of those as a kid. I thought those were great.
Yeah, they were really cool. And of course, but the big thing that he's done recently was he's kind of the guy who created cloud gaming, considered one of the people who, so he raised $50 million in his company Gaikai, and he sold that to Sony for $383 million. So the, and that ended up becoming like, what we know today is PlayStation Now or whatever, their cloud service. So he's a super smart guy. And again, I was the best man at his wedding. He was the best man at my wedding. So that's how close and tight we are. So he was the other person. And then the fourth person was our CFO, Nick Richards, who's the numbers guy, brilliant guy. And, he had sold his last company for $150 million. So the four of us were the kind of the core of this new entity, which we called Intellivision Entertainment, moved over all of the assets from the old company. And the reason we did that is because we were going to be raising a lot of money through investment. So you have to structure a certain company. You have to structure a company a certain way in order to, set it up in a way where investors know everything's covered and stuff. And so, for example, our corporate attorneys are Morgan Lewis. Just look them up on Wikipedia. They're the #1 corporate attorneys in the world. They represent 70% of the Fortune 100 companies.
Wow.
They represent the Clintons. They represent the Obamas. They represent the Trumps. So no matter what side of the coin you're on, they got you covered. So these are the types of people that we have, involved with Intellivision. This isn't a Kickstarter project. This isn't the Ouya. This isn't Atari VCS or whatever. This is the serious thing with all the best AAA people from around the world in the game industry, whether it's our attorneys, our corporate attorneys, our patent attorneys, or Kenobi Martin. Again, look them up. They're one of the best in the business for that. So every step of the way, we it's super important for us, especially when you're bringing in investors. You have to have a AAA team. You can't be like one guy and a bunch of people who've never done it. Every single person on our team has 20, 30, 40 years experience working on the greatest video games in the world or the greatest hardware machines in the world. I mean, we got certain guys who work with us. Their last project before ours was the Mars rover project for NASA. We got guys who are on nuclear submarines in the Navy. We got guys who created the software for the Black Hawk helicopter project for the, so literally the most AAA folks, ever. And that's really important. That's a long answer to your question, but there was a lot of it's talked about yet. So that's some exclusive stuff for you guys.
Okay.
It was never going to be I just signed the dotted line. It was never going to be that answer, though. No, that's a good answer.
I won it in a poker match from Nolan Bushnell, actually.
Las Vegas poker and blackjack. We played it. I think that's probably one of the bigger differences that you can see, or we can see, the general public, we'll call ourselves, between like Amico and then like there's been other revival systems and even other like Ouya type things. And Ouya is probably a bad example because that was probably more publicly known than some of the other ones. But like there's the Coleco one.
Coleco Chameleon, yeah.
The
stuff that never made it. At least Ouya made it out. You have to give them credit for that. It's not easy.
They seem to be shrouded, kind of. Whereas at least with Amico, it's very much not shrouded at all. It's very public and
very open. We got, why? because we have nothing to hide. You know,
right. And that's
it's
yeah,
like,
that's
you know,
indication.
we're very open with everybody, and we want, you know, we're the underdog. Make no mistake, I'm not drinking my own Kool-Aid over here going, everybody knows Intellivision and we're just going to come out of the gate and compete with Sony and Mike. Hell no. Hell no. You know, we're complete underdogs. We want people to root for us. It's fun to root for. We're like Rocky Balboa up in this bitch, you know? Like we need the support. We want to be open. We want to present our everything we do, not only our console and the software, but even the way we present ourselves. We want it to be very different. We don't want it to be corporate. We don't want it to be shrouded in mystery. That's what the video game industry has turned into, because you get a bunch of suits and marketing people who like control the messaging and the PR and control and we're like, you know what? We just, you know, we kind of approach it like a Kickstarter in that, you know, when you do a Kickstarter, it's like, here's every step of the way as we make this project. And that's kind of, we want to bring people in, you know? And so, yeah, you're not going to get 100% glossy presentations. We'll turn on our mobile device and we'll show you us playing the game and what the features are and why it's so cool. And I think people appreciate that. You know, I think you mentioned it yourself. It's like you appreciate the honesty, you appreciate the openness, and that's just one of the small reasons why we want to position ourselves very different from all the rest, because we're not competing with Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, or now Google Stadia. We don't consider ourselves competition with them. We're not interested in that hardcore gaming market. There's 200 million people who are classified as hardcore gamers. Those are people that play on Sony, Microsoft, now Google, some of them, Nintendo, and PC and Mac. Those are hardcore gamers. Those are people like us. That's 200 million people in the world. Yet 3 billion people play casual games and mobile games. Like, you know, about 2.5 million people play on mobile. There's hundreds of millions of people that just play solitaire on their PC every day.
My grandfather.
Hours. Your grandfather, right? Okay. Let's get your grandfather off solitaire and let's get him on the Shark or Cornhole, where you can now play with your grandfather and he's not intimidated by the controller. He's not intimidated by the games, the complexity, the price. And the great thing is, the way we've designed these games is you and him can play together. And guess what? He has an opportunity to beat you, you know, and that's really important. When people feel they have a chance because you haven't made it so complicated, and you give people who maybe need a little extra, like a real time on the fly handicapping, then they feel like, you know, they're not embarrassed if they lose every game. You try to put a mom who's never played video games and their 12-year-old son, come on, Mom, let's play Fortnite together. Like, what a disaster.
I tried to have my family play video games with me when I was younger, and it never ended up good.
Right? And that's what we're saying. What if I could bring to you? What if I could bring? What is Amico? You want to know what Amico is? If I could bring to you guys playing with your girlfriends, wives, friends, family, mom and dad, grandfather, in a room, kind of like what we saw a little bit with the Wii, right? The Wii, and that was 14 years ago. Nursing homes were buying the Wii. My mom bought a Wii for herself, and she's just, you know, just to play bowling.
Oh yeah.
It was just that. That's all they want to do. When people can make fun of Candy Crush all they want, and it's just, oh, it's just this stupid game. Oh, really? Because more people play Candy Crush than Call of Duty, Red Dead Redemption, Fortnite. And again, I love those games. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes the hardcores, especially the elites, they get wrapped up in their own bubble and they think that they're the majority and that they can. They're not. They're not even close. Out of all the people who play video games in the world, less than 7% of them play on Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, Google, or PC. 7%. Because everybody's playing on this or, you know, like in Windows or something, you know?
Right,
and
right.
so And so that's the big gaping hole, because the problem with this and the problem with solitaire and casual, all hyper casual games is that they're solitary. So every single edutainment game to like for kids 2 to 7 years old, edutainment is only on this. You can't buy an edutainment game on the PlayStation or Xbox.
No, you can't.
Or Switch, you know? And if there is, it's buried and no one knows about it, right? So everything's on this, but everything on this is solitary. So every single game that your grandfather could possibly play, every one in his world is solitary. He can't play with you. There's not a single thing, right? And so that's, and again, I'm saying this in broad strokes. Are there examples? And absolutely there
are.
Of course. I'm because people will call me out. No, there's this one game on that. No, I'm saying the majority. I'm saying the overall, right? And so that's what we do. Every single one of our games is couch co-op and single player as well. Every single one of our games is easy to get into. Every single one of our games has these different modes, whether it's versus or co-op or, even easy tutorials. There's always going to be easy ways to play the game as well. Simple controls, no dual joysticks and shoulder buttons. And now there's buttons on the back of the thing too. It's like, Jesus Christ, so anyway, that's our whole play. And the whole thing is, hyper casual is solitary, and we're going to make hyper casual couch co-op and family friendly for everyone. So even for hardcore gamers, look, we don't think that you guys are going to buy a Amico instead of a PlayStation 5. Again, I'm not stupid. We're not competing with them, right? But we do think that the hardcores will buy it as a secondary device. The families will buy it as their first device. But when the hardcores start to play and start to see the fun that they can have with their non-gaming friends, they're going to want to get one as well too. So anyway, but our initial go-to-market strategy is to go for those non-gamers, those moms and dads, young parents who are looking for something where they can be safe. We don't have any violence. There's no bad language. There's no sexual content. Can't say the same thing about the Nintendo Switch. In fact, there's more bloody, violent content on the Switch than there is on the PlayStation and the Xbox. That's just a fact, right? I'm not dogging Nintendo. I love Nintendo, but but facts are facts. And Nintendo used to be the strictest machine ever in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, definitely.
That's no longer the case. That's no longer the case. So anyway, by providing something that parents can feel safe about, where it's simple, affordable, family focused, that's our big, and it's safe, that's our big thing. And all of the market testing that we've done, focus group testing, you'll see parents' number one thing about video games is they want them to be simple. So they don't care about fancy graphics like maybe the three of us on this call do. Parents don't care. They just want they prefer it to be simple as opposed to complex. But anyway,
I think one of the hardest things, and this better than anybody, and this isn't meant to sound pompous, but the hardest thing people have to understand is how products that seem so similar on paper are actually totally different. So the Amico versus like the Xbox, right? They're both video game consoles, so people lump them together, but they're totally different things. I mean, you see it all the time in reality, but a lot of people don't actually.
Well, a lot of hardcore elitists don't see it, because they're so trapped in their own bubble. So they look at our games and go, "Oh my God, these suck. They look like mobile games. They look like simple mobile games you can play on a." Yeah, that's the point, dummies.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Graphics to me don't really mean anything because I can still go back and play, Atari and Intellivision, ColecoVision. Very simple graphics, and they're very addicting games.
It's about what? Yeah. When did all these hardcore elitists all of a sudden think that graphics are now the most important thing in a video game? They never were. Right?
When 3D started.
Right, exactly. How annoying is it? And no knock against Hideo Kojima. I love him. He's a good friend. But that last game to me was unplayable. I hated it. I hated every moment of it.
You know, I heard that from a lot of people.
But you know what? People enjoyed it though. Again, I'm not trying to crap on anything. I'm just saying different strokes for different folks.
Oh, definitely.
Visually, it was stunning. It was unbelievable to me, right? I mean, Red Dead 2 was stunning, but I still like Red Dead 1 better because I thought it was more playable, you know, game. So, but anyway.
I think we're in the same boat there, and that's part of the reason I've gravitated towards a lot of indie stuff.
Right.
Me too. Lately, I've been playing nothing but indie stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's where the gems are, the hidden gems. And that's what Intellivision's about that no one's really talking about either, is that what we do is we foster that indie community. The indie developer really, you know, this is like the average indie developer. They have this great idea and concept. They get a couple of friends together. They bootstrap everything themselves. Or maybe they're living in a dorm room on ramen and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, right? They work their asses off for 1, 2, 3 years. They're all excited. They release it on Steam or mobile. And then within like 4 hours, they're off the what's new chart because there's 1,000 new games that come out. They don't have marketing. They don't have PR. They have this amazing game that no one knows about, and it gets like 1,000 downloads, and it's like, it's unfair. Or they try to get it kickstarted or on Indiegogo, right? Maybe they can raise $30,000, $40,000, $100,000. Look at a game like Undertale, Toby Fox, right? Goes on Kickstarter, raised $500 or $50,000, and the guy's, you know, instant millionaire. And so what we're doing is we see that system that's broken, right? And so what we do is we look for those indie studios and we go to them and say, look, we think your stuff is amazing. We love it. And what a shame that not a lot of people know about this. What we'd like to do is we want to pay you. And they're like, wait, somebody's going to pay us? Yeah. We're going to pay you to create a game for us. You know, maybe it's based on something they've already done before. Maybe it's taking something and redoing more levels or making it playable with our very unique controller, adding levels, adding graphics. We'll give you the audio. So we create a true partnership because the folks that we have internally at Intellivision, you know, Mike Dietz is our art director. He was the art director on Earthworm Jim, Disney's Aladdin, Cool Spot. I mean, this guy's like a genius art director and animator. You know, folks like, well, I know a thing or two about audio, it's been said. And so, you know, instead of like trying to create audio by downloading files off of YouTube or whatever, let me and my team do the audio. So we give resources. Optimization is a very important part. And a lot of young indie developers have never had to deal with optimization before because they're just creating stuff in Unity, throwing all these scripts on top of each other because they put it out for PC. But all us old guys who've been doing this 20, 30, 40 years, back in the day, we had so many restrictions on the Sega Genesis or the Game Boy or the NES or the Super Nintendo, and all those kind of tricks of the trade and, you know, talking to the metal, as they say, you know, programming directly to the chips, as opposed to here's this big fat thing and let's throw a bunch of stuff on it. So the tricks that we all learned back in the day to help these guys. So we give them optimization stuff as well too. So we really truly create a partnership with these indie developers. We pay them, we give them a royalty, and then we create a game together. And that's kind of, because that's the way it used to be in the old days with game publishers. But now game publishers are like just doing like AAA products, rinse and repeat, you know, let's throw 600 people on the project, crank out another Madden, crank out another, you know, whatever it is, Call of Duty. And they're all great. Again, it always seems like I'm crapping on these. I'm not. I appreciate it. I love them. What I'm saying, though, is that I'm just trying to distinguish why we're so different and this huge gaping hole in all the problems that exist in the industry that Intellivision is going to make right. Because I do think, you nailed it, I do think that all of the best ideas right now are from indie developers. They're not coming from EA and Ubisoft and Activision. It's not. All the most exciting stuff is happening in the indie and the developer world.
Well, it is because I mean, I couldn't even tell you last 4 new games I've played, but like Assassin's Creed, for example, every Assassin's Creed game is exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's just not that interesting anymore.
Exactly.
You kind of touched on it.
Beautiful and it's amazing, but it's the same old thing.
And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You kind of hit the nail on the head. I want to move. I have a lot of other questions that aren't television related, but this is good stuff. But you touched on one thing, and you said back in the old days and this, that, and the other. I think a lot of the things that I like that a lot of other people don't, or that I have a real draw to, are things like 80s horror movies, older video games, those kinds of things.
Evil Dead.
There we go. And the reason that I like those things is the creativity and the effects, or how they manage to get whatever happened. So I think one of the biggest things that like really fosters creativity or fosters good stuff is limitation. And you kind of touched on that just a second ago. And I think that's, so I'm on board.
And it's interesting too, if you look at the movie industry which obviously, had bigger budgets than we had back in the day.
Well, yeah.
But you take a movie like the original Star Wars and the original Matrix movies, right? We talked about, doing Matrix. You talk about those 2 movies where they had to make do with what they had. They didn't say, oh, you have a limitless, and look at the Matrix movies, the camera angles that they had, the way they had to use these techniques in order to get, the most out of it. In Star Wars, using the models before, they went all CG on everything. And there's something to be said about that style of creativity when you don't have all the money in the world or all the resources in the world, and you need to do things differently in order to be creative. That's, I think, where the magic is.
I think you're right.
Yep, I'm on board.
Yeah. I think you've just completely nailed that topic.
I think that's why a lot of people don't understand when I tell them, well, probably my favorite movie of all time, if I had to put it on paper, would be King Kong from 1933.
The 33.
And when you watch all the behind the scenes stuff with the guy's name was forgetting, and that's not Ray Harryhausen, but Willis O'Brien, I think is who it was. The stop motion and all that. It's just so fascinating, and it's just unbelievable.
Ahead of its time. Look at Tron. 1981.
Oh, definitely.
The computer animation, was the first time CG had ever been used in a film, and they didn't have a lot of money. And I know those guys. I know Steve Lissenberger. The guys who created that movie are good friends of mine. And they've actually watched that movie in my house. That's how close I am to these folks.
That's one of my favorite movies ever. What a dream.
Richard Taylor, who was the art director for Tron, the animation guy. And so it's me, Richard Taylor on one side, and Steve Lissenberger, the creator of Tron, on another, sitting in my theater downstairs, a floor from where I'm sitting right now. I'm literally sitting right above it, and we're watching it on my projector. And Richard's like, "Hey, do you have the the remote for your projector?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I see it?" "Yeah, sure." And he's boom, boom. And he's color correcting my projector because he's like, "I think that blue is a little off." He goes, "Okay, now it's right. That's how we made it." And I'm like, "This is I'm like blown away."
I'd be mind blown. I wouldn't even know what to say.
I'm sitting here watching Tron with the creators, and they're color correcting my thing because only their eyes in the whole world know exactly what it was supposed to be.
That's crazy.
That was a surreal night.
It's funny because if I was watching, I'd be like, "Yeah, it looks fine."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, looks fine to me.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a handful of things that I've known you from before. I think the first thing was probably Electric Playground. I used to watch it on G4 back in the day.
Yeah.
But the second thing is probably Terminator on Sega CD, which is by and large my favorite Sega CD game, and it's also one of the only soundtracks I've ever downloaded to listen elsewhere. Actually, I brought it over here just because I.
Yeah. Hey, look at this.
I love this game.
So I got it in shrink wrap.
Mine's just in a box protector.
So I'm gonna be the only one without Terminator, huh?
What the hell's funny? You didn't get the memo? No, it's funny because I just did another recent interview, and we were talking about Terminator. We were talking about Terminator and Color a Dinosaur. So I brought those out. One of my favorite games and one of my worst games. But anyway.
I did not know you worked on Color Dinosaur.
Oh, you kidding me? It's legendary. My work. It's I mean, Academy Award winning. Yeah.
I must not have read up on that one too much.
I was wondering, what could you tell us about Terminator on Sega CD? What was that like, or what happened? How did that come about?
I got a lot of great stories around that. Well, first of all, the person who programmed Terminator on the Sega CD was a very, very famous programmer. His name was Silas Warner. Silas Warner was the original guy who did the original Castle Wolfenstein back in the day.
Okay.
Right? And so he's this legendary dude, and he's unfortunately passed away. Very large gentleman, easily maybe 400 pounds, if not more. Tall and a large guy, very eclectic personality, very he's like Mensa smart and I don't want to say Rain Man, because that's I don't want to come across as an insult, and it wasn't that like that, but that kind of like really unique personality. I got along great with him, so he was the programmer of that. He was unbelievable, and but the one thing about Sega CD was, so that game Terminator had a couple of firsts in it. It was one of the first. It was actually the second game that used Q sound, that used 3D audio. Sega had come out with Echo on Sega CD right like a month before that, and that was the first one to utilize Q sound. So Terminator was the second. So it was one of the first 3D sounding games. But the one that it is the first is that it was the very first video game to ever use a live guitar.
That is interesting.
That's pretty cool, right?
And it shreds, might I?
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I did everything. I wrote the songs, guitar, bass, drums. I played everything on keyboards.
All right, so the one-man show here.
There were a couple others that I brought in for certain things as well too, but yeah, I did everything on that. But I had different writers, and I brought in a couple guitar players as well for some of the songs. So I don't want to take credit for everything. There were 4 or 5 of us that worked on it, but and so that was kind of cool. But I got to tell you, the graphics of that game, as you know, were pretty much like Genesis graphics, a little higher, right? But they were very much 16-bit graphics, right? And when I was doing that music, you have to put yourself back in the day. So go back 27, 28 years ago. And remember that video game music back then was pretty much just a bunch of bleeps and bloops, or it had that Yamaha FM synthesis vibe on the Genesis, and the arcades used a lot of that. And so here I am creating real music to go with 16-bit graphics. And a couple of the producers, I was still working in-house at Virgin at the time. A couple of the producers were like, yeah, we hate this. It doesn't match. Like, this music doesn't match the visual. Like we need it to sound like, this sounds like a rock station, or like something you'd hear on a rock station, but this is a video game. You need to make it sound like a video game, because that's what everybody was used to at the time. And so for them, it was kind of jarring and shocking. And I'm like, but guys, that's my point. My point is, we're creating something new that no one's ever seen or heard before. We're going into grounds and areas. We're Star Trek up in this bitch. We're going to places you never been. What's that famous thing from Star Trek? Whatever. Anyway, we're visiting planets no one's ever before. And so yes, it's jarring. And we had drag out arguments. I mean, shouting matches, because they did not want me to put that music in the game. So it finally went all the way up to the president of Virgin.
Wow.
And he said, what's all the fuss about? Let me hear the music. And we played him the music, and he's like, and he wasn't even a gamer, and he's like, this is great. That's the music. Discussion over. And so that's an interesting thing, is that at the time it was so different that people didn't want it in the game. And I had to fight tooth and nail to keep that, in the game. And Silas loved it as well. Silas loved the music. He's like, what are these guys talking about? Like, this is crazy. So anyway, so that's kind of a fun story about that. Now I'll tell you another interesting thing that people don't know. So this was the first game. Like I said, it was one of the first games. You'll see this logo on the back, the Q Sound logo.
Oh,
that's the 3D thing. So the people who were behind Q Sound was a guy by the name of Bernie Stolar.
I know Bernie Stolar.
And a guy by the name of Buzz Burrows. Now, Bernie Stolar Bernie, he didn't know anything about the video game industry. He came from the audio world. Buzz Burrows was an engineer who worked at this place called the Record Plant, a very famous, so he like mixed some of the greatest albums out there, and he mixed, that's why it sounds so good. He was the guy who engineered and mixed everything that you heard on here, and my first album with Capitol Records and parts of my second album. And so these guys worked for Q Sound, and now they're working with me in the video game industry. And boy, they were like, man, the video game industry is so much cooler than Q Sound, and you're working in audio. So I started introducing them to people at Sony, at the people that I was working with at different places. Well, long story short, Bernie Stolar ended up becoming the president of Sega, the president of Sony, or he was at Sony, like a big guy over at Sony, but he ended up running Sega, president of Sega. And Buzz Burrows was the lead audio person at at Sony Computer Entertainment. He was the guy who designed the architecture for the whole audio driver for like the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3.
Wow.
And then he moved over, and he's the lead guy at Harmonix, and he's been at Harmonix for like 15 years now.
It's funny you mentioned Harmonix, one of my favorite companies of all time. Oh. My buddies have been to their offices. I'm a huge Guitar Hero Rock Band fan, play them almost daily, so that's something cool to me.
And so the guy who mixed this, and if you open the booklet and you look at the credits, you'll see Buzz Burrows' name. He's the guy. He's one of the masterminds behind Harmonix, and so that's some more trivia. That it's a small industry, a small world, but yeah, so many different things about that game that were kind of interesting.
That's very cool.
Now you gotta buy the game. You know, you need a copy.
Oh, if I sell Senti, I can afford it.
There was one more game I've heard you talk about Terminator before. There was one that I've never heard you talk about, and I didn't even know you were involved with it until I beat it, and I saw a special thanks to you in the credits. And I talk about this game any chance I get. Hunter is he's gonna know about it as soon as I say the name. But it's Power Slave.
Oh, yeah.
I beat that game and loved it. I can't believe people don't know more about that game.
He's been on this game for like a month.
And
that was a Saturn version.
I played the Saturn one. I played the Saturn one. And in the credits, in fact, I took a picture because I was like, I wanted to show. I've
never even seen this. I want to see the picture.
Yeah.
This is never before seen footage here, folks.
Yeah. I've never even seen my name because I never finished the game. But
this is an exclusive.
They didn't have me listed under audio though.
I think it was a special. Okay. Oh, here it is. It says, Lobotomy would like to thank a handful of people, and then Tommy Tallarico. I don't know how well that'll come in.
Oh yeah, I see it. Okay. Yeah. So what did I do for Power Slave? We did some of the sound. I didn't do the music. We did some sound design stuff. They already had a lot of the game finished before when I got involved with it. And that was through Playmates Entertainment, was the same people who put out Earthworm Jim. they were, and so I was the audio. I had like a 3-year deal with Playmates, and I started with Earthworm Jim was the first game they ever put out, and they did like Toshinden, I think it was 3 or 2.
Another
they
favorite
also
game.
Put out, remember Toshinden? And so they did a whole bunch of they were doing a whole line of games, and the vice president of Playmates, and you'll see him on any. He's probably in that Power Slave credits as well, but you'll see him on Earthworm Jim and all that. His name was David Lumen, anyway, Dave was my roommate.
So, very cool.
Back when I first moved out to California. So again, all these little ties going back 25, 30 years. And so they brought me in at the end of Power Slave to help them with some, like, we did some power-up sounds, and we also took the audio that they had, and I think we like downsampled it to keep the quality high, but because we were running out of space or whatever. But yeah, I specifically remember a lot. I think we did some stuff with some of the cinematics in there as well, but specifically like some of the collect sounds and some of the bigger sounds, and I think even some of the voice recording. I think we were editing some of that stuff as well. So that wasn't a game I was involved with from the beginning to do the music. It was kind of the thing where we came in maybe like the last like 20% of the project to kind of just add some cool bells and whistles and help with the audio stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't even really know about Power Slave until he bought it.
It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool
cool
game. One of those games that gets lost. Another game that I worked on that never gets enough props. It's 2 of them. From a storyline standpoint, Advent Rising on the Xbox and PC.
Oh, I know that game. I did not know you were involved with that.
That's a great storyline. And we worked with Orson Scott Card, who's the guy who, the one of the most prolific sci-fi writers. He wrote the Ender's Game,
right? Yeah,
stuff like that. So he wrote the storyline with us. And another interesting story about that, you'll see how the video game industry, when you've been around a long time. So the guy who created Advent Rising, his name was Donald Mustard. He was the lead designer. Well, Donald Mustard is the creative guy for Fortnite.
Wow.
So his company, Chair Entertainment. And so it's like, you work with all these people throughout your career and they become super big,
It's going to be interesting to see which directions everyone goes, though.
It's crazy. Yeah. But the other game that people should check out if you've never played it is a game called Wild 9. And
I love Wild 9. That's
Wild 9.
It's a hidden gem.
Right?
That's on PS2, right?
Yeah. What's that?
PS1.
PS1.
Is it 1 or 2?
I believe it's PS1.
Was it 1? Okay, you're probably right. I think you're right. I think it was 1. Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing was that was the game that we did that most of the Earthworm Jim team did, but we had like lost half of the team. Half the team went to start their own company after Shiny, but we had like the core Earthworm Jim team. Not the core, actually. The core had left, but we had some folks left over. But it still had very much of like David Perry's personality in there, my touch with the sound and music and humor. But anyway, that was a really cool game. And what was cool about it, the kind of the unique factor, and we're talking about bringing this back for Intellivision actually, is that cool. You could run around. It was kind of like a platformer, but you had these guns and you could grab the enemies and you could torture them. You like slap them around with your gun. You could whack them into walls. You could hold them off a cliff and then turn the gun off so they'd fall, or you could burn them in flames, or you could drown them in the water. It was all this kind of really funny stuff instead of just like kicking them or whatever.
I'm gonna buy Advent Rising because I've been buying a lot of original Xbox games lately. I've never even heard of that one.
I will have to pick. I mean, I've known about it, but I didn't know you worked on it.
The controls at Advent aren't great. Like you have to get rid of this. Like we have this kind of flicking system. You have to get used to it a little bit. But the storyline, the cinematics, the music, the acting is just second to none. It's real, and I don't want to spoil it for you because there's some major spoilers. I'll let you, but there's a choice that you have to make like part way into the game that affects the rest of the game. So you could really play it twice, 2 completely different ways. So, but anyway, I don't want to spoil it for you.
No, all right. I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
One more.
You know what? I want to know one of my favorite games that I didn't work on that I think's the one of the biggest hidden gems as well. I mean, Shadow of the Colossus, but that's kind of more well known now. But this game, you guys gotta play it if you haven't. Have you guys ever played Beyond Good and Evil?
I've never played it, but I know people talk it up a whole lot.
Talk about a hidden gem. It's unbelievable. And that's the guy who created Michel Ancel. He's the guy who created Rayman. So he's known for Rayman, but I would put Beyond Good and Evil up against any of the Zelda games from that time period. Like, it's that good.
You're challenging the Zelda expert here on that one.
Oh, come on.
Remember, I said from that time period.
This is the one that they're making a sequel to. I remember the name. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look at that. It's also on Xbox. All right.
Oh, it's a great game. I think that. Well, I mean, they did the PC version, but if you have the original Xbox, get it on that.
Yeah.
I will have to pick that up.
What about Metroid Prime Trilogy? I was surprised to hear that you had involved in that, because that's another one of my top 5 at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great stories there. I mean, you're really unfolding all the this is great.
This is like his dream right now.
So again, another really interesting story, which is, so I've been friends with Shigeru Miyamoto for 30 years. We first met. We were I think it was in Chicago, and it was 1990, or maybe it was 1991. It could have been 90. I think it might have been 91. And we were working on the game Global Gladiators, which was a Sega Genesis game with a McDonald's license. And that's the very first game that the Earthworm Jim team worked on together.
Oh, wow.
So it goes Global Gladiators, Cool Spot, Disney's Aladdin, Earthworm Jim 1 and Earthworm Jim 2. 5 games, same 10 people, 5 Game of the Year awards, back-to-back consecutively. It was pretty amazing.
I mean, that's very impressive.
And we got, by the way, we got those guys back. Everybody on the team is back to do the Earthworm Jim 4 game for Amico. And the first time we've worked together in 25 years, and we're back.
That's cool, though, that you can get everybody together.
Oh, it's amazing, and everybody's super excited. But anyway, so I met him because he had heard about this amazing game on the Genesis called Global Gladiators. So he came by the booth, and at the time, I was not only the audio guy, but I was also game testing and producing at Virgin as well. And so I was the play tester on this game when he came by, and so I was showing him, and I didn't even know who he was at the time. Like, back in the day, like no one knew who Shigeru Miyamoto was,
right.
Like, the press or whatever, the internet didn't exist back then, right? We're talking like early days of this stuff. And then somebody said, that's the guy who created Mario. What? And Zelda? What?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Freaking out, because I was playing Super Mario World at the time. And so anyway, we started a conversation, and he had a group of people around him from Japan, Japanese from Nintendo Japan. But we kind of became friendly with each other, and then we'd see each other in a hotel or something, and hey, how you doing? Boom, boom, boom. And then he was always interested in my audio work, because I was able to do shit back then that nobody had ever been able to pull off and accomplish with the way we were doing samples, and just the way I was doing stuff back then was kind of pretty unique. And so he always said to me, and we see each other at parties at E3s, and he says, he goes, someday I want to hire you to do my audio. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the greatest honor ever, And in fact, I was the very first American to work on the Sonic franchise as well. The first American ever to work on the Sonic franchise.
That's nuts.
Because I was friends with Yuji Naka and all the Sonic team and the Crush 40 guys who were doing out of the audio, June Sanao, good friends with them. And so they brought me in on the Sonic. First time ever anyone, from the US worked on a Sonic game.
Which Sonic game was it?
One of the crappy ones, unfortunately. It was Sonic and the Black Knight. But the music is awesome. But anyway.
Yeah, not the best game.
Sonic the Hedgehog a sword, you're pretty much jumping the shark. Anyway, but the so we were at a party. I forget what year it was. It was a Nintendo party, and I was also good friends with the CEO of Retro Studios.
Oh, okay.
Vandenberg was his name, and so me and Jeff see each other at this party, a Nintendo party at E3. And he says, hey, Shigeru Miyamoto's here. It's a Nintendo party. I'm like, yeah, I gotta go say hi. And he goes, well, look, me and Shigeru have been talking and we want to talk to you about something. I'm like, well, great, let's do it, And so it's me, Shigeru, and Jeff Spandenberg at this Nintendo party, and we're off in the corner. And basically, Miyamoto-san said, look, we've been talking about working on a product, and this is super hush-hush. Don't say anything to anybody, but we're going to reboot the Metroid franchise.
Yeah, a little taken aback, yeah.
We want you to do the sound for it. And Retro Studios in America is going to do it, and you're friends with Jeff, and we're friends, so it all made sense. So I worked for years on that project. And what ended up happening, because I was never credited in the original game, and I'll tell you the story why. So what happened is that the Retro was working on a whole bunch of different projects. And what happened is they realized that Metroid, and Metroid, if you remember, Metroid Prime went on for years. I think it was like 5 or 6 years that project went on, and it was delayed, and they wanted to get it right. And then the Wii was coming out, and they wanted to, like, all this, stuff. So it was a long project. And at one point, Metro had like 5 or 6 other projects going on. They said, you know what? This is clearly like our most important projects. We're going to shut down everything else. I think they laid some people off, but they put the entire team now on Metroid Prime. Well, they had an internal audio team. And what would happen is the project was delayed for so long, and it lasted so long that the people that I worked for originally, then they would bring another producer on. And then I left the project because, they brought their internal people on to kind of finish up and polish up the thing. And then another producer would come on that had no idea that I even worked on the project to begin with, and this and that. And so that's kind of how I ended up getting left off the original credits for the original Metroid. Then it becomes a big hit, and I was like, whatever, I had it on my credit list, and whatever, I don't care. Then Metroid 2 comes along, and now the producer of Metroid 2, his name was Scott Peterson, he emails me, and he goes, and we hadn't known each other at all, and he emails me, and he goes, I got to ask you something. Look, we're doing the sequel, and he worked for Retro. He goes, we're doing the sequel to Retro, we're doing Metroid 2, Metroid Prime 2, and we have no idea where all these big sounds came from, like all the weapon sounds, some of the cinematic stuff, the visor sounds. Like, we don't have, all there is there's a directory, and it says Tallarico. That's what the programmer, had. We looked you up, and we all know who you are, but we've never talked. We're assuming, did you do the sounds for Metroid Prime? I said, yeah. I was friends with Shiggy. I call him Shiggy. We're getting Shiggy with it. And so I said, yeah, me and Shiggy go way back. I told them the stories. They're like, do you guys have the original like master files, because they only had like the converted files. I said, yeah, sure. I said, look, could you do me a favor? Because no one believes me now. You know, now it's like, oh, why are you lying? Why wasn't your name in the credits? And, you know, it's easy to understand. Like, why would I lie about a game I worked on? You know, I worked on 350 games, and all of a sudden I'm going to lie about Shigeru Miyamoto. Like, somebody couldn't call me on that. And it's like, stop being stupid.
Right. Like, you can't back that up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh yeah, my whole career and reputation I'm going to put on the line because I want to say that I worked on a game that I didn't. I mean, it's just stupid. But anyway, and it's such a high profile game to begin with too.
Well,
right?
yeah.
And so and again, I talked to you about Power Slave. Like like back in the day, it just wasn't like, hey, special thanks to Tommy Tallarico. It's like, that's why I asked you. I'm like, they didn't have me down for audio because I actually did some audio too. But whatever, it's fine. So anyway, so so I said, look, could you do me a favor? Could you give me credit or write me a letter or talk about it in an interview, how I did the original sounds for Metroid? So at least it's like on record. And he goes, yeah, no problem. So put my name in the credits. And then he wrote me this nice letter. Thank you for, you know, being a part of the Metroid franchise, having such an important part. And so now that's out now. And so like you knew that, right? You knew that I had worked on Metroid probably because you read it on some, you know, on something. So, and that was important to me, is that at least it's out there now. And if people look hard enough, they'll realize that I had a, you know, big important part of it.
I mean, I do get it wanting your credit where it's due.
Yeah, I mean, I get it too. I wonder if I don't know if you know this or not, but I wonder if they fixed it and put your name in the credits on the re-release for the Wii version.
No, I don't know. You'd have to tell me on that.
That's the version I beat, but I
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did. I mean, a lot of times they don't, because they just take the code, and a lot, you know, like they're not like, I don't know though. Maybe again, that producer would have had to have been that producer on the Wii one. So who knows? Like, if he wasn't the producer,
right,
he's not gonna remember to tell the guy, oh, by the way, give Tommy credit because it, you know.
Yeah, and that's quite a few years later too, right?
Right. Yeah.
So cool. One more question, and then we can do some Amico stuff. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your relationship, your friend of a friend, to Paul Stanley, because I'm a big Kiss fan. Rob told me that you had a connection.
Okay.
And I'm a huge Kiss fan too. So.
I mean, I met those guys both. Well, I mean, so my cousin is Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. I have a couple connections. So my cousin Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, his real name is Steven Tallarico.
Yep.
And so the first time I had met those guys, Kiss was opening for Aerosmith at the Hollywood Bowl.
That's interesting.
I want to say this was probably, I would say maybe it would have been about 15 years ago. Yeah, it was because I hadn't done my first Video Games Live show yet. So it's probably 16 years ago, 16 or 17 years ago. And anyway, I was backstage. I was hanging out with Steven and actually Richie Sambora, and this was when he was married to
Heather Locklear.
Heather Locklear. So it was me and Steven in this little tiny room because he was getting, I think he was getting like, they were doing his hair or something. So it was me, Steven, and then the hairstylist or something. And we were just, you know, shooting the crap. And then knock on the door, and then Richie Sambora and Heather Locklear walk in. And like, we're in this like kind of small space. It was like super cool. But anyway, and then of course, and so they opened for him. And so, you know, when you're backstage, and I was there for like a good part of the day, not just for the show. And here I am, you know, front row to a Kiss concert, and you're like feeling fire, and you know, you're like,
yeah,
you know, you're getting like your blood on you. You're like, oh no, don't spit on me. But anyway, so I had met those guys originally there, and But I worked on a Led Zeppelin project, a Led Zeppelin symphony project, and the guy who hired me as the creative director to work on the the Led Zeppelin stuff. His name is Abby Konowich. Abby was the president of MTV in the 80s. Okay. So it's like Abby's such a great guy. You look at his phone, he's like, yeah, here, let me show you some pictures. And it's like him and Michael Jackson in like the Thriller, like on set. It's him and Prince in the Purple Rain outfit. It's him and U2, like, before Joshua Tree. And it's like, like all this stuff, amazing stuff. So not only did he do that, after that, he then started Maverick Records in the early 90s with Madonna. So he's very tight with Madonna. And then he became the president of Disney Music in for like 12 or 15 years.
Jeez.
Abby is also on our advisory board at Intellivision. So it's all full circle. But me and Abby had met because he had hired me. We have a very mutual friend who's like the #1 music guy in the world at William Morris. So we kind of have the same very tight friendship, and he's my agent for a lot of my music stuff. And he's the guy who created Coachella, created Lollapalooza, crazy. Lady Gaga, Prince, 9 Inch Nails, Dead, these are the kind of the acts that he manages, over there, or books. So anyway, we had met through Mark, and so I was working on Led Zeppelin. Well, he is good friends with Paul Stanley. So when we did the showcase for the Zeppelin project, you'll look around and there's all these and so Paul Stanley was there. So I had a good chat with Paul that time, and I said, oh yeah, we met actually, Steven Tyler, we met backstage, and he probably didn't remember, I'm sure, but
right.
But yeah, Paul is a super cool guy, very smart as well, and that's the thing that I don't think they get enough credit for, especially Gene Simmons. Gene is like marketing, and he's a great negotiator. He's a marketing genius. People don't appreciate it that much, as much as they should. All the licensing and all that stuff that he's done. And so that's when I was talking to him, and his son was there as well. His son looks just like him. The big, tall guy.
Wow.
I'm like a short guy, and like these guys come towering in even without the boots on. Paul's actually shorter. But Gene's kind of a big guy, and but he's absolutely insane in a good way. But he's so sharp business wise. They're doing like they do the Kiss cruise and super. Always thinking outside the box, and for somebody to exist in the music industry for that long, whether you like the music or not, you got to respect whether like the Rolling Stones. Like, I like some of their music. I'm not like a total like major like uber fan, but God, you got to respect the fact that Aerosmith, Kiss, Madonna like has reinvented herself 100 different times. Prince was in that too. You gotta send out respect. But Kiss, the fact that they still have the Kiss Army and they do these Kiss cruises, and now let's do cruises. What? And so super smart guys. They don't get enough credit.
That's cool. Damn, I was gonna say something there and I don't even remember. So it's funny. Huge Kiss fan, my mom's favorite band.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a ton of like memorabilia. Like, I have like one of the official Kiss clocks from the magazine.
Right.
And I've got like bookends and stuff, and it's really cool. I still don't remember what else I was gonna say though. There's something in addition to that, but big Kiss fan. It's very cool.
Yeah, that's a cool story. That's cool stuff. So we can move on to some more Amico stuff. I know there's a lot of questions there. We want to
Sure.
We want to get to them. Before we do that, though, I do have I don't know if you want to call it a surprise for you.
Okay.
But we do have
Seeing my name in Power Slave was surprise enough. I can't imagine what else you're going to come up with.
Yeah. We do have a guest that would
Uh-oh.
like to attend. Let's see if we can get him on. I don't know if he can top Power Slave, but we'll see what he can do.
Okay, we'll see. Let me see. Joining? Somebody's joined. Is this an old friend? Do I owe this person money? And maybe I don't want to talk to him.
Not yet. Video's not coming in yet, though.
Yeah.
He'll join in a second.
Okay.
So that'll be cool. You know him. You know. I don't know if you owe him money or not, but you do know him.
Now he probably owes you money.
He probably owes me money.
Yeah, television dude here.
Hey, there he
Now
is.
taking over this podcast temporarily.
There he is. What's going on?
Hey,
Happy. You do owe me money, in fact.
do I?
Because don't you have a Founders Edition, right?
We'll get to that.
Officially, you owe the company money.
So, so I do have some questions for you.
Hit them only if they're the hard ones. You know, we don't want people to think you're a shill. At least you're not wearing an Intellivision T-shirt, right?
I don't know if I can fit my Intellivision t-shirts anymore.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Well, first, before I ask the questions, I want to give a shout out to my crew and my group on my Intellivision group on Facebook, Intellivision Invasion.
Television Invasion. I recommend anyone who has any kind of fleeting interest in old school Intellivision stuff. You gotta go on Intellivision Invasion. It's such a great community. Super cool folks. I mean, every once in a while, a douchebag will swing by, but you pretty much, we put them in their place and then they go away. And it's fun sometimes to pwn noobs. But anyway, yes, Intellivision Invasion.
What happened to Derek?
He'll join back in. Must have an issue.
And I want to give a shout out to my crew, Michael Suit, aka the Games Are, Mike McMaster, aka Sinister Moon, Jason Groves, Luke Boudreau, the one and only Christian Martin, aka C Mart.
C Mart, he's the guy. Him and Lathe 26, but C Mart's I think I don't know. You tell me. He's in regards to collectors, he's the top of the chart. There's no one who has more.
If he's not close, he is the top. But there are other people that come close, and he will admit that.
Yeah.
I think his Alex Pace was his name. He used to post. He used to have a bunch of pictures online of his collection.
Wow. Now, in terms of knowing the hardware, though, I would give that award to Joe Zebek. Joe Z, right?
Oh yeah, because he made the LTO.
I mean, he's reversed engineered everything. He's unbelievable.
This is one of the only pieces of hardware I have left. Is my own.
Oh, the best. All Tron looking on that.
Yeah.
I have the Cuddle Cart. That's the one that I use.
So, first questions are from me.
Yeah.
Hunter just sent you a message there, Tyler.
Okay.
So, what's it like being cousins with Joe Perry?
Steven Tyler. Not Joe Perry.
That was a joke that fell flat.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I didn't know. Okay. Yes. I mean, I'm very close with Joe. And his son. I just saw his son, Roman, his name is. Roman Perry, super talented kid, great musician, great, just artist in general. I was hanging out with him. Steven has a Grammy party, and me and my wife were with Roman, because Roman was a big fan of G4. So growing up as a kid, he would watch me on TV. So it's kind of, he's an adult now.
I didn't get to watch G4 because our cable company didn't have it. Or I had
Oh, well,
DirecTV.
you weren't missing much.
We
Anyway.
had Tech TV, and then G4 took over Tech TV,
And then destroyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now that I'm in the mindset of you're gonna be messing with me. Okay, next question. Now I know.
Okay. Well, I screwed that all up, so.
No worries. That was still funny. I was the one who screwed it up.
I had more to it. I was gonna say, I bet it's amazing. I bet it's crazy.
I see.
I bet he was crying when he met you. Now he's trying to forget you.
Trying to forget me. That's right.
But the Amico train keeps a rolling all night long.
Wow, you incorporated like 6 Aerosmith songs into that. That's pretty impressive.
Okay, that's all the jokes.
Okay.
Okay. Of the following games, how many remakes or similar style games are being worked on, and how many could be considered in the future? Diner.
Diner is on the to-do list, but it's not. It's down on the list, but it's on the list.
Masters of the Universe. Is that even possible?
Wouldn't that be something? So
I should just leave that be.
well, no, I'll tell you a little bit more. So Masters of the Universe is, as we all know, or many people may know, is owned by Mattel. And Mattel was, of course, the creators of Intellivision originally. I'm trying to think what I can say without getting in trouble. Let's just say that we have a lot of mic drop moments coming up at the end of April, beginning of May. And I'm going to leave it at that. But let's just say that Masters of the Universe is high up on the list. Not for launch, but if we were to be working with Mattel, I would imagine that would be one of them. It's not the top, but it would be on our list of remakes.
Oh, and speaking of Diner, who owns the rights to that? Because why hasn't INTV put it on either like
I think I'm back.
You're back.
I don't know what happened there. That was weird.
I'm pretty sure we own. Now that you said that, I think we own it.
I figured if they owned it, they would have put it like on Intellivision Lives or the platform.
Yeah, G Mode might own that. I'm not. You know what? I'm not sure. I can find the answer in a second. Right. Just as you asked me that, I can't remember if we own Diner, or like the code, or if Burger Time's owned by G Mode, and we've done a deal with them. And I can't remember. Either we own it or they own it. I forget, but
next one is Frog Bog.
Absolutely, and we want that on launch.
Okay.
Boxing.
I want to do it, but it's a tough one because it's two guys hitting each other in the face, and so
this
from
is
our family.
Few Intellivision games Derek here has played.
Yeah, so I would say we would hold off a little bit on that one. It's way down on our list, but I love it. The double knockout. We were actually talking about that on Intellivision Invasion a couple weeks ago. Somebody brought it up, and I'm like, did you ever like hit each other and knock them out? And it was the same time that
I'm trying to remember if I ever had the double knockout as a kid.
Oh, me and my brother would have it all the time. We would try to do it. And that was when Rocky 2 came out. Remember the last scene of Rocky 2 where they knock each other down? It was 1982. It was like, or 80 or whatever. So that one's a tough one that we still need to think about and do some market research on.
Body Slam. I did hear a rumor something about a wrestling game though.
Yes. So we've started discussions with a retro wrestling game company, and there's no reason why we couldn't call it Body Slam and use some of the things that were from Body Slam.
What I liked about Body Slam is it wasn't really serious. Like one
Right.
guy punched another guy right out of the ring.
Yeah.
And it had like the Batman TV show sound effects, like pow and
Pow.
bam and crack and things
I'm
like
not
that.
a big wrestling fan, so I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. So like,
Right.
but the people that I'm hiring or would potentially hire, they know that world like the back of their hand. They're super passionate about it. So I never played Body Slam on Intellivision. I mean, I have it and I played it. And
I played it way too much.
Oh, really?
Way too-
It's just not something I was passionate about. But I want to bring a wrestling game to an Amico, and the people who I'm getting to do it, or who would if I were to get somebody to do it, would be these people because they're just so passionate about it. Well, if you're passionate about it, I'll make you a producer on it too.
There you go.
Slam dunk to pro basketball.
Yes, that is top of the list.
I always like the fact that you could draft your own players.
Not on launch, but it would be coming shortly after a basketball game. Yeah.
I love the fact you could draft your own players. The players had kind of cool, funny names,
Mm-hmm.
and they performed according to their stats.
Yep.
Pretty advanced for the time.
Yeah,
It was.
This one's a given. World Championship Baseball.
Big announcement coming within the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
It
Huge.
wouldn't be if there wasn't a baseball game. So,
Huge announcements coming.
Okay.
Can we finally get the sequel to Burger Time that never happened? Pizza Time.
I'm not sure. I didn't know about that. Somebody brought that up. I've heard people talk about. Was that an actual ROM? Like, is there a ROM out there that exists?
There is. I don't think there is.
But I think it
was. I think it was something they were gonna do but never did.
Now, look. Here's the deal. I'm 100% Italian. If any person was going to do the follow-up to Burger Time and call it Pizza Time, it's this guy.
Yeah, it's
so
gonna be you.
Absolutely. I don't want to go on record as saying we're definitely going to do that, but we're definitely going to do that.
Both sports games have a CPU versus CPU mode. Because as a kid, I would, watch the games, watch the wrestling matches, and that was important to me because I hate to say it, but not everybody's going to be having the couch co-op experience. Unfortunately, some of us will not be. So, will the games have a computer versus computer mode?
That's a hell of a question. I don't even know the answer to that. I'm trying to think of they all have single player. They all have couch co-op. I'm going to have to think about that.
Even in my group, that
like, for
one guy
example,
does
Pong.
that. He does that Intellivision. What's he call that? The league, where he puts computer versus computer matches, and he puts the results in the group.
Right.
And it would be cool if we had that as well.
That's actually the first person that's ever brought that up ever. I'm gonna have to think about that.
That's all I did as a kid was watch matches and things.
Really? Huh.
Well,
it would be easy to.
I had Intellivision Model 2, and then Toys R Us stopped selling it. My controller started to die, so that's all I could do anymore was watch the matches.
It sucks.
For example, Rob, you lived in a world where there was a pandemic and all the sports in real life were canceled. You could actually do something like that.
Right.
If that ever were to happen.
I used to do that with my N64 as well. So went on. Okay, on the Reddit AMA, you mentioned that we are currently looking for a proper type RPG, and I've been speaking to a few indie developers. So I was going to bring up the game Bug Fables.
What's it called?
Bug Fables.
Bug Fables.
Bug Fables.
Okay, can you send me after this send link on Facebook of all the RPG?
It was an Indiegogo campaign, and they made the game. It's on Steam right now.
Cool.
It was done in the spirit of Paper Mario.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Game like.
Send me a link to it, like a YouTube trailer or something.
One question from Jason Groves. He's got two, but I think Derek's going to ask one of them. Many times in the past, you were not able to review everything the controllers will be capable of. Is this still the case?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's one major, there's two major things about the controller that I have not told people yet. And they're major.
And I think I've heard you hint at them.
I don't even think I've hinted at them.
I think you mentioned that there would be some things you couldn't reveal, is what I meant. Now I got some questions for Mike McMaster. How does the new final side button placement affect original Intellivision games?
It sucks. For the games where you're like, I'll give you an example, Major League Baseball, right? Yeah. So in the original baseball, the things were up here, like when there was two buttons, there's swing and there's bunt. Well, now it's hard to do that, but we've made it like this now. So because screens are 16 by 9, right?
Right.
So your TV screen is 16 by 9. And so it makes more sense for Major League Baseball if we were doing that game. I'm not saying we are. But it makes way more sense that instead of the overlay like this, that the overlay's like this anyway. Because that's more of your TV screen. So if you're pitching, you're pitching down or fast or up and, but you're swinging and hitting, your swinging or bunting is with this, right? And sliding and stuff. So it's more better. Now, again, but a lot of the games didn't even use the two buttons. So
I do know that on World Championship Baseball, you really had to get your thumb centered right in the middle of the keypad.
Yeah.
Or you wouldn't get a quick reaction time.
Yeah.
You didn't have your thumb right in the right place at the right
time.
And
on this, you can't put your thumb on it. You have to hover over it. Because if you touch it, then it's automatic. But I'm telling you, it's something that it's just a feeling and a touch. It's not bad. Other controllers though, or other games, like even stuff like Frog Bog and stuff like Astro Smash, totally playable. It's the games that have two buttons that you always have to push. If you put it like this, it's not bad. It's just you have to get used to it. But if somebody's like expecting that exact experience of the two buttons, there's nothing we can do, And
buy a flashback.
Just buy a flashback.
Exactly. I must say that controller actually looks pretty comfortable. I like the design.
It really is. The haters say, "Oh my God, it's so stupid," blah blah blah. But I mean, this took us years. You can see how it. Let me back it up a little bit, but you see how it's curved like a bar of soap almost, And so when you feel it, you feel the kind of the chunky part in your hand. But look at the back. Look at the back. How like your thumbs it just fits. Or sorry, not your thumbs, but your middle fingers fit right there. And even the cups of this, it's hard to see, but you actually when you put your finger in this end, and I've never really talked about this, but this end flares up a little bit. So when you put your finger in, you can you don't like slip off or anything like that. It feels like, and it's super subtle, but this part of it is really cool. But yeah, and you see how it's like grooved. It's not just like it's grooved and it's carved out, because remember, like the NES controller or the Super Nintendo or the Genesis, it was just like a flat back. But this you can actually feel your hands in, and holding it like this. Also, the buttons are really good. Or when you can hold it any which way. So when you hold it like this, and you're using the side button to throw, or you can use the disc if you want to throw like that. It's whatever you want it to be. But anyway, it's not comfortable, and people don't realize that because they just look at it and go, "Oh my God, that's so ugly! It looks like a phone. You're stupid."
Next
That looks great to me.
Will we be seeing more reimagined arcade games.
Yes.
Will there be any old school scrolling to the right beat 'em ups?
That's a very specific question. Scrolling to the right, beat 'em ups.
Not my question, it's Mike's question.
You know, I've had a bit of a struggle with this, to be frank.
Probably
So-
the same thing with boxing.
You know, because and let me explain the difference. If you're in a tank and another person's in a tank and you're like blowing up tanks, it's like a mechanical thing. Even Night Stalker, you're kind of like this ghostly sci-fi looking figure and you're shooting robots. That's like, it's fantasy. It's, you know, if you're in a car, you'll notice that in our cars, in that crashing game, the Sideswipers game, the windows are blocked out. You don't see a person inside the car. We don't see the people falling in the car, right?
Right.
So these are fantasy. So for kids, and when you talk about you know, the ESRB and all the rating systems and stuff, if it's robots crashing into each other, if it's cars or trains or
that's a good
armor.
idea. You could have robot boxing or robot.
Well, again, I didn't want to say
Yeah.
that, but what does the original Intellivision boxing look like? What does it already look like?
Kind of silhouettes.
Well, no, it's
characters.
not the robots, right?
Well, I guess it does. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a person. There's no distinguishable
Things big
features.
blocky things. So what if? Wouldn't
What
it be
if, yeah.
something if it was a Rock'em Sock'em Robots thing instead of blood and hitting people in the face and this and that? But if it's
Technology is pretty
robots
good.
fighting, it's different.
That could be fun too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds fun.
But
actually.
the beat 'em up, different thing, because that, if you're a young kid and you're 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, and you see and you're controlling a person who's beating up stuff, that's using their fists and their feet to kick, and then you got to think, in the real world, are they going to try to kick and beat and stuff like that? Are they going to, you know, imitate
Probably.
that? See, they can't go into a tank in real life and blow crap up in a tank, right? But they can mimic hitting and kicking. And that's where a lot of the parental organizations, that's where they draw the line. If you want to pick up a pipe or a baseball bat and beat somebody, even if they just flash and disappear, it's the idea of a young child being able to mimic that thing. And so for me, aside, and people are going to hate me saying that, but I'm just being honest. For me, a side-scrolling beat-em-up game, it's going to be tough, and we have to figure out ways to make
Yeah.
it not a person, you know, or not a, you know, whatever. But that's a tough one because of those reasons, and I'm just being honest,
Right.
you know.
Mike's last question is: are you willing to talk about system specs?
Sure. What do you want to know?
You didn't say that was the question.
Oh, there you go. So my answer is yes. Too bad for him, he didn't follow up. Okay, go ahead.
How many teraflops,
Okay.
I think, is what he was going to ask.
I'll tell you exactly. None. And we're proud of it.
And I don't even know if you said a number, what it would mean. So it's just,
yeah, me either.
Okay, now some questions from Michael Suit. Wants to know if
My friend Tron.
if you use the old Snafu tune like they used to in the advertisements, and he would like to know if you would remaster the Snafu theme.
Oh, hell yes. Or yeah,
I'll be happy to know
It
that.
had great music. It had great
So I know.
some of the best
I'm.
music on the Intellivision.
It had what? What's that?
Some of the best music on the Intellivision.
What we even one of the best music? It was the only fucking game that had music.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Fun
my
cat,
follow-up
so I'm
question.
just kidding.
My follow-up question is my favorite game that has music, which is Thunder Castle.
Thunder Castle. So there you go. Name three Intellivision games. Well, Thin Ice, but you know, like most Intellivision.
There's not many.
You say that you're not remaking Thunder Castle, but it could be on the table at some point, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Thunder Castle, for sure. Yeah.
Would you remake that soundtrack?
Oh, for sure. And I would do it with the guy who made it. You know, close personal friend, David Warhol.
Because that had tons of classical music in it.
Did I say that? David Warhol.
I think you said it right.
Yeah. No, I was like, wait, that's the artist. Who's the artist from the
Andy
60s?
Warhol.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol, yeah.
My close personal friend, who I forgot his name. No, yeah, David Warhol. We've talked many a times about doing something with him with that.
Very cool.
Okay. That's cool. Okay, one question. Actually, it's not even a question. It's a statement from Luke Boudreau. Wanted to let you know that he's still holding your shrink wrap River Raid.
My shrink wrap what?
River Raid.
Oh, he has a shrink wrap River Raid?
River Raid, yeah. I guess he's holding it for you.
I want it. I collect because I collect all the. My entire collection is so people collect the 125. I collect the 125 in shrink wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I seen your
hardcore
video.
shit.
I seen your video.
Oh yeah, that's right. You saw the Smash JT one or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
that's
got-
that's hardcore.
I got some rare stuff. You want to see some rare stuff? I got some rare.
I want to see some rare stuff. This should be good. Seal keyboard components.
Didn't some of the INTV games not even get sealed though? Isn't that the case?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, like Spiker was never shrink wrapped.
So what are you gonna do about that?
This is some shrink wrapped M Network stuff, Star Strike. Like so, once you collect the original ones, then you got to collect the Sears ones.
Yeah, of course. You got to get the variants.
I bet the seals are harder to get sealed.
Sealed, yeah. I mean, these are a couple. These are two sealed ones. Sealed Space Hawk and Star Strike. Mousetrap sealed. It's coming apart a little bit, but
It's still sealed.
yeah, sealed. I got a sealed Popeye Parker
Ooh, that's
Brothers.
cool.
That one's kind of a tough one to get. And then I started going back and collecting all the Aquarius ones sealed. So I have a sealed Burger Time and a sealed Night Stalker for the Aquarius.
Now that's pretty cool.
Those are hard. Those are like $150 or whatever. But here's something I wanted to share with you. So these are the C-Mart's about to wet his pants when he sees this. But these are the original carts for, and these were in Keith Robinson after he passed away. Myself and a couple others were in charge of cleaning out his storage and just saw all this amazing stuff.
Wow, I bet that was a gold mine.
There's the original Star Strike.
Oh,
And
Wow.
Tron.
wow.
Now that is cool.
So those are
The Adventures of Tron.
Adventures of Tron, exactly. Which is the one that Keith worked on, right? I think he was working on.
I know he did Solar Sailor.
He did Solar Sailor, but who was he working on Adventures of Tron as well?
That I don't know.
Either way, though, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but these are.
I wonder if the original Battlestar Galactica game still exists.
That's right. That's right. And we have some of the old like Tudor Vision stuff. And
Cool too.
Computer component, the keyboard components. We have all those. Like I have.
That Tudor Vision is so rare.
What's that?
The Tudor Vision is so rare.
Yeah, there's 3 of them, right, or 5 of them.
I think it's 3.
3. Yeah.
3 is all I know.
I think it's 3.
Yeah, and there's 3
I don't keep
cartridges
up
as well.
Keep up.
But anyway, so these are actually part of Intellivision's library. I had them at my house because I took pictures of them. But anyway, but yeah, so we got some amazing stuff. That's the cool thing about the company. Like you go through the archives, and there's stuff there from the original days. It's it's not just some company that's been sold and bought and passed down through generations.
I mean, I just can't imagine all the stories and all the
Oh
stuff
my
you could read for endless amounts of time.
I mean, I got to be honest with you, like the people who were there from the beginning, like they always had a grudge against Atari. Make no mistake, it still exists.
I'm
so
sure.
like, so we kind of like, have a little fun with Atari because they're still, isn't it kind of cool that 40 years later they're doing a console, we're doing a console again, and
you did 2600 Founders Edition.
We did 2600.
Yeah, that was funny. I like that.
To poke fun at them and stuff, but again, it's all tongue in cheek. I mean, I hope they succeed. I hope they're for all the backers' sakes. Like I hope I hope that the machine comes out. But I will say this: I hope they come out because we're going to kick their ass. And so
a lot of people
it
want
took
it
us
to fail.
40 years, but we're going to finally beat Atari.
Crush them.
And again, I say that tongue in cheek. I don't want anyone to think I'm.
So I don't have any more questions, so it's back to these two.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That was some good stuff. It's great when on Intellivision, when you get interviewed by somebody who knows the history of Intellivision, because most of the people I do, they like played Intellivision growing up, but you're a true connoisseur, and but anyway.
Yeah, it's funny him mentioning that. I just want to touch on it real quick. When I first started collecting, maybe it's probably like 10 years ago. Pre-NES, never interested me, never really cared. I was a kid, I was younger, and I was like, boring graphics, not interested. Mm-hmm. And as I've gotten older, and especially like lately, I mean, I've been reading like all the history of Intellivision, Atari, ColecoVision, Magnavox, and it's really interesting stuff I'd never cared about. It's very interesting now, and I've taken a liking to the Intellivision quite a bit. Cool.
Well, you're a good man. You're a smart guy, clearly.
Good. Rob, you're welcome to stick around for the last couple of questions if you want.
I might as well.
Yeah.
Did you already tell the story about how we met?
I didn't, and it's funny. You might get a kick out of it, Tommy. So, similar to Hunter, when I graduated high school, I had, which was 10 plus years ago, whatever. Mm-hmm. I had graduation money, and it was just sitting there. So I ended up collecting some stuff. And one day on Craigslist, I had found an Intellivision system, some games. It had an Intellivoice and a keyboard thing, which turned out to be the ECS, not the other one. And it had, was it a Microvision? Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Microvision.
I had one as well. Great stuff.
I didn't know Intellivision from, a hole in the ground. So I ended up going to YouTube and whatever, and I stumbled across Intellivision Dude, and I figured who would know better than a guy with a name. So I ended up just messaging him on YouTube and saying, hey, I've got this Intellivision coming. I think they were shipping it to me or whatever. What do I have? Mm-hmm. Well, it turned out I didn't even have an Intellivision. It was an ECS module only. And like
really?
Games and then Intellivoice. And I was like, and it has this weird baseball controller. I don't know what that thing is. It was the Microvision, and I still have that. I don't have the Intellivision anymore.
That is not an Intellivision controller.
That's funny though. It's funny. I think also when I got my first Intellivision, I think I also went to Rob here to ask what I had because I, like you, I didn't know anything about it.
I mean, the guy's got it in his name.
Well, one of the goals that we're going to, that we're going to, because we're proud of our history and
absolutely
a lot of great legacy things. And one of our goals in, once Amico comes out is there's a whole generation, anyone like 35 and under, millennials and younger have never even, for the most part, don't even know what Intellivision is.
No.
So as we create this new brand, we also want to make sure, because we're proud of our history and legacy, we want to make sure that people understand that, hey, by the way, we were the first to do this and the first to do that and the first to have this and the first to have that and the first, and that's why we have a whole section on our new website,
right,
that shows all of the amazing stuff.
Well, like you said, you have an established reputation over 40 years.
Yeah. And here we are 40 years later, and we're going to rewrite the book again with doing a bunch of firsts as well.
That's great.
Yeah. Hunter, did you want to ask about the one question that I think it was Jason had that Rob had skipped over about the UK?
Yeah, so Jason Groves had a question, and it's kind of interesting to me too. He wanted to know if there was any more info available on UK distribution as a whole, including if the VIP and or the Founders Editions are they going to be sold to UK customers that
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. And we're also going to be I mean right now the plan is out of the gate US, Canada, Germany, UK, and Middle East. So those are the territories right now. The UK is going to be taking some pre-order stuff. UK and Germany is going to take. Well, Germany might happen even sooner by the end of this month.
Okay.
But yeah, they're going to start to. It's not going to be the cool stuff like we did for the VIPs and the Founders Edition.
Right.
But retailers will be in the UK and Germany will start to take pre-orders.
Okay. Good to know. Got a couple other ones here.
Mm-hmm.
Mike McMaster, and I'm curious about this too. Any idea on how many games are going to be available to buy at launch?
Physical, you mean?
I'm assuming he means physical. Rob, do you know?
Maybe he just means in general.
Well, I mean, I'll answer both ways. So we're planning on having anywhere from 25 to 30 games on launch.
Okay.
We think that's going to jump up to about 40, and those will be digitally in the store. But for physical products, I'd love to have at least 20 to 30% of those as physical as well.
Okay,
so
great, 'cause, I'm sure as all of us here, we love physical gaming.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not opposed to digital gaming, but I like to have the physical.
yeah, and
I
when
used-
wait
I
till you
used-
see what we're doing.
I used to be 100% against digital, but I've started to buy some now.
Yeah, well, again, but that's a great thing about Intellivision, and what we're doing is we're passing on the savings to the customer. We're not, you know what I mean? Like you buy Zelda on the Switch and it's $69 or whatever,
Yeah.
and you buy the physical version and it's $69 or so it's like, our physical media is going to be more expensive.
Oh yeah.
It'll be from $15.99 to $25, so in that range there, or you could buy the same thing for $10 online or whatever, in the digital version.
See, I love that because that's what I've never understood about digital gaming, especially with like Xbox and PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
The digital one costs just as much as the physical. I'll just go buy the physical one.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing though for physical is that, we're going to have some special stuff on there as well too that only that version has
Okay.
Here
we go with the variants already.
Yeah. Oh, C-Mart, I'm going to drive that guy crazy.
Oh, I'm sure he's going to have a ball with that.
He's going to hate me.
One more question here. This one's from Mike too. Another one I was kind of interested in. He wanted to know, is it true that the Amico controllers will have built-in lithium batteries? And if so, how long can a controller be continuously used on from a full charge? And can they be charged while the Amico is turned off or in standby mode?
Yes to all those questions.
Okay.
So the battery life, the testing that we're doing now is typically 5 to 6 hours at a time.
Okay.
Pretty good.
And it's you can't get access to the battery to change it though.
Right.
But it's going to last for years. And we do sell these separately as well. Now, that being said, I'm sure somebody's going to do a DIY.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say that, but I didn't want to say
No,
it.
they will because they do it for every console.
Why not, right? So you'll be able to do it, I'm sure.
It's like, how am I going to change the
But
battery in my cell phone? I got to find a DIY video.
right.
No, that's cool though. I mean, for me, when I sit down to game now, like I said, it's mostly indie games, so being able to pick it up for 20, 30, 40 minutes.
And that's the thing, exactly.
That's
so
what
you
I
hit
want.
on something super important there, which is our games aren't meant to be played for 10 hours in a row. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
exactly.
Like when we say 5 hours, we're like, wow, that's pretty good because we don't expect people to play for more than 5 hours on these kind of games,
Right, yeah, and I mean, I don't expect my.
It's like, oh, let's play this one for 15 minutes. Oh, that's fun. Now let's quick and switch to that one. Oh, wow, we played a half hour on there. Now let's switch to that one. And then you like play 3 or 4 games, and now 2 hours have passed.
But that's kind of that's kind of how it is.
Well, the games have a save feature, some of them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if I wasn't sold on the Amico before this, I gotta say I'm getting a little impressed by it now.
Have you put a VIP down yet?
No, I haven't. I've been kind of sitting and waiting. You know, kind of sitting and waiting for more information. Because I'll be honest, this first when the Amico was announced, I kind of had a feeling it was going to go the way of like the Coleco Chameleon, and I was like,
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I was like, here it goes again. Another old company trying to revive it. It's just going to fail. But you've really changed that.
I got to tell you this. Look, I'll be honest 100% here. Like, if you are at all interested, I'm telling you, our VIPs are closing down on this Friday. If you're at all interested, check it out. And it's $100 you put down, and it's 100% refundable at any time. Yep. So if you change your mind later down, you just get your money back, right? And if we, you know, the thing is that these are, I'm warning you guys now. I'm not trying to sell you a unit.
Right.
It's completely, but I'm letting you know that because of coronavirus, shit is going to be scarce.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. You know, my name is Intellivision, dude, but I had my reservations at first.
Of course, that's fair enough. No worries. You got to be. Anyone should be skeptical, you know. But I think what people end up finding out, Rob, you might be one of them, is when people see the passion that I have for Intellivision, and that everybody who we have as part of our team, the passion that we have for our goal, and the passion we have for Intellivision, it's good to know that it's in good hands. It's not some holding company that just bought the license and is just ruining the name, you know?
Right.
Like, you know, there's not a lot of companies you can say have that kind of passion from the top all the way down, you know?
I can't wait to see that D&D game.
It's looking cool. That, by the way, that's super early. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's so cool. It's like, yeah, you ain't seen nothing.
I tell you, I think skiing was the one that looked funnest to me.
It's great you say that because, you know, a lot of people want to bag on us because of the graphics. Like, oh, it's like, what part of early gameplay demos unfinished didn't you understand?
Well,
right?
It's funny because that happens with every company and every trailer that comes out, people are ragging on it. It's like, you realize this is like a first build.
And you put that in the beginning of the video in big letters.
Big old letters.
Yeah, just let you know, like,
and
everybody ignores that.
Oh, they want to just rip on stuff, but whatever. But skiing, which everybody liked, everyone's like, oh, we really like that one. Well, that's because that's the one that's the most polished.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's the one that's nearing completion. We still got some stuff to add and some visuals and stuff, but yeah, people, it's like, oh, well, okay, if you liked that one, then you're probably going to like all the ones. Or if you like Night Stalker, right? That was a very cool stylized thing. That one is another one where that look is kind of complete. So yeah, you know, people just like to complain sometimes, but
yes, yeah.
But we get it. It's okay. And again, we're not a graphics powerhouse. I'll tell you straight up. We're not interested in competing with Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. Let them fight over those 200.
That's what I think people don't get is you're not trying to compete with these companies. And you've said it many times. And I think for some reason they still seem to think that you are.
Well,
a certain somebody likes to say, well, you can have couch co-op on the Switch.
Yeah. And here's the sit your grandpa down and see how well he does at Smash Brothers. Go ahead, have fun with that.
Yeah, really.
Give him the little controller that big, that has the knob on it. Yeah. Hey, Grandpa, here, play Zelda.
Yeah, that he can't see.
Yeah. But you know what I think it is with those guys, and we know who we're talking about. They shall be name unnamed. But the thing is, what triggers certain people is that Nintendo fans, for example, that grew up on Nintendo, and there's a lot of folks out there, and again, they're a great company, and I personally love them. Some things I love, some things I hate.
I also grew up on the NES as well.
Okay, so when a person like me comes out and says, "Hey, we want to target families. We want to be the family machine. We're not going to have any blood, violence, gore, any of that stuff. We want to be families." For hardcore elitists who are trapped in their little bubble, that triggers them.
I just remember something I wanted to ask you.
Okay, like, how dare you say that Nintendo doesn't do family stuff? Wait a second, I never said that.
You know, I can almost relate to those people.
That's our focus.
I can almost relate to those people because I kind of used to be like that too.
Yeah.
When I was younger, and now as I've gotten older, I'm like, it's ridiculous.
Well,
I wanted to ask you about a picture from last year.
You got because you're more mature now, right? So that's
yeah.
But go ahead, Rob. A picture last year.
There was a picture last year, and you were standing outside Ellen.
Yes.
And there hasn't been even a mention of that since. I'm so curious to this day.
There's certain things that I can't even joke about or talk about.
Right, I'm sure.
That, because like some stuff, I'd say like, oh, wouldn't that be something? I've been thinking about something big in baseball. There's 5 or 6 major things that I can't even
nothing
joke or talk about because it's part of talking to certain people or talking about certain partnerships or talking about that I literally have NDA signed and I can't say anything.
No, I get it. I'm sure.
Gotcha.
I'm sure.
So take that as you will. It's kind of an answer, isn't it? But
good enough for me.
Yeah.
Hunter, was that the last one that you had not noted down?
Yeah, that was the one. No, I mean that was all the ones I really had.
Cool.
I mean I have one more question.
Hit it.
It's not Intellivision related, and I hope
Okay.
Rob didn't ask it while I was gone. But I gotta know what was it like growing up, having Steven Tyler as your cousin?
I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't suck.
I mean I had to ask. I gotta know.
So here's a cool thing, and I've told this to Steven many times. When you're growing up and you're 8 years old and you're at the Boston Garden or because I grew up in Massachusetts.
Right.
And or in Worcester, and you go there and you see, so my first memories of cousin Steven are just meeting him as cousin Steven, right? Barbecues or cookouts or family picnics and stuff. And then when you see him on stage, I'm like, oh, that's cousin Steve. Like take any of your cousins that you have, right? And now let's say, and you know him as your cousin, but let's say tomorrow night you go and they're performing in front of 30,000 people.
Funny enough, I actually have a famous musician cousin myself.
Oh, cool.
Not on the level of Steven Tyler by any means.
Okay.
But
Go ahead.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
and then you go and you see them performing. Now, for a young child, I see Steven performing on stage, and 30,000 people are cheering, and they're doing encores, and and he's running around the stage like a madman, entertainer, the best.
I regret not seeing them live a long time ago.
Well, you can see them now. Fly to Vegas, see their show there. It's awesome. And so, well, you can't now, I guess. Now.
Well, yeah.
But when you, as a young child, to see that and experience that, to me, the effect it had was, oh wow, that's cousin Steven. That looks like a pretty cool job. That's what I want to do. So, being a performer on stage or an artist of any kind, creative person, never for a second did I ever think in my mind that that was an impossible dream, ever. You know, like, because people grow up and they're like, oh God, I wish I could be a rock star, or I wish I could be an actor, or I wish I could be on TV. And it's like, but I can never do that. Like, that's something that's like super hard, and you have to know the right people. And people like go get down on themselves. They're like, well, but for me, I never had that at all, because I'm like, well, if he can do it, why can't I? Like, I know him.
Right.
You know, so I never had that veil of this is hard, or this is impossible, or I shouldn't do that because it's too risky, or that'll never happen. It's $1 million in a one shot. That shit was never in my brain. And that's the greatest gift that Steven Tyler gave to me.
I was going to say, I mean, that just makes you creative, because you've never thought about, I can't do that.
Exactly.
Like, he did it, why can't I?
Exactly. So, never entered my mind.
That's very cool.
And I thank him to this day. And it wasn't something that he, I mean, we get teary-eyed talking about it, but that was never something that, the effect that somebody like him has on somebody like me that he never thought of, right?
Right. He probably didn't even think about it. Like, oh, it's just cousin Steven.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You know what else is kind of a funny thought is that Steven Tyler's cousin is the CEO of Intellivision. Like, if you reverse the...
Kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it is weird.
You want to know a funny story? This is kind of along the same lines. So when Wikipedia first came out, you get write-ups, and I had a page, and Steven has a page.
Right.
And so, and I didn't really pay attention to Wikipedia, and I haven't like seen my own Wikipedia page in probably 6 months. Like I go there once in a while, or have to copy and paste because I need to give it to somebody for whatever, but I don't really think about it too much. But it was funny. Steven Tyler discovers Wikipedia for the first time, because he's not a computer guy, and he's not into the technology thing as much. I mean, he's got he has his phone, and we text all the time or whatever, but he's not like hardcore. So I get a call, bring, and I said, oh, Steven Tyler's calling. Yo, Steven. He goes, hey. He goes, do you know what this Wikipedia thing is? I said yeah. He goes, well, I'm on Wikipedia right now. He discovered it for the first time, and he goes, on my Wikipedia page, meaning his, Steven Tyler's, it says that Steven's cousin is, that Steven's famous video game composer Tommy Tallarico is his cousin. I said, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't know. Yeah. He goes, but I went on your Wikipedia, and it doesn't have me listed. I'm like, I said, I don't make the thing. Like, I can't even make my own Wikipedia page. Like, I couldn't even change it if I want, because they don't allow the people who the page is about. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't worry. He goes, that's bullshit. And it was funny. I mean, it was all kind of funny.
That's hilarious.
So it's it's pretty funny. He's like, how come you're on my page, but I'm not yours? I'm like, I don't know. I don't make this.
I don't know. Maybe they like me more.
No, not at all. It's just that more people follow him. Like there's probably 2 people who've created my Wikipedia page.
Right.
And they probably didn't even know.
Right.
But there's 50,000 people that probably put page into him, and
I'm sure
who I was. So, but anyway, he's on my page now, though. He is on. We took care of that.
That's very fun. I was waiting for you to say he called you, and he goes, yeah, it says you're this famous video game composer. I didn't know that.
Oh no, he's known that for a long time.
Oh, it's very cool. I can't imagine knowing Steven Tyler. Just picking up the phone. Oh, hey, Steven.
It's again, it doesn't suck. He's the coolest. You can't. I don't know if somebody could have a cooler cousin. Like people can have cousins that can be presidents and scientists.
Yeah, but whose cousin is Steven Tyler?
School teachers and stuff. And I mean, those are real people.
And don't forget about Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler's as well. She's super cool. But as far as cool factor goes, I guess I'm biased, but I don't know anyone who's more cool than Steven Tyler. Like if I had to make a list of all the I'd put like Tom Cruise is up there, Hugh Jackman, he's pretty cool. But they're not Steven Tyler.
I mean, let's be honest. If I was a kid and he was my cousin, I would absolutely tell everybody that story.
I don't tell a lot. I don't like talking about it because I don't want people to think that, I'm bragging about.
Oh, no, yeah.
If you guys
People
never
do
asked
that,
me.
though. People on the internet do that constantly.
Yeah. I mean, if the Kiss thing didn't come up, I wouldn't have talked about them once,
Right. No, these curious fans here want to know.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Aerosmith fan, so.
Well, and I love talking about it if people ask me, but I'm not going to offer it,
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
I have one more before we wrap things up. It doesn't sound like before you've been involved very much in the kind of the manufacturing and supply chain side of like a product. I mean, I don't know how often that would come up in.
Well, no, I mean that's not true. I've created a lot of physical products in the past. I mean, I've come out with 12 albums. Just that alone is.
That's true.
You have to create music. You have to do the legal for it. You have to manufacture it. It ships to a warehouse. You have to fulfill the manufacturing, and then you have to market it and sell it. But only that too. But I've done toys in the past as well. Things like and I mean I was part of the original Guitar Hero team as well.
Okay.
So a lot of physical stuff.
See that is amazing to me. And I don't.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Metroid, Guitar Hero. You'll see my name in all those credits.
Power Slave.
I mean Tony Hawk and other childhood
Color
favorites.
Dinosaur.
Oh yes, never forget to hit classic Color Dinosaur.
Look at Bitches in the Shrink Wrap. Never open.
I mean, I know that game's already expensive.
That's a hard
It's
one to
fucking
get.
expensive. This is probably $2,000 if I were to sell this on eBay.
Wow.
And I got, by the way, I got like 12 of these. I got a whole case of
Hey,
them.
why
Can
don't you
I
want
have one?
Yeah, you want to hook one of us up with one?
The stem of my question, I guess that was a good point. I was wrong anyway. But how did you? Because I work in supply chain, so that's why this is interesting to me. How do you find? And you've talked about it a little bit in some other interviews. What did you think about, or how do you find the current supply chain? Or what how did it go? How did it meet your expectations? I know you guys are tooled up now.
Yeah. Oh, we got an amazing partner that has an office in Irvine, California, but their plants are in China. They're absolutely incredible folks. They've worked on the PlayStation 3, 4, and 5. Now they're starting up 5. They did the Nintendo Wii, the boards for the controllers. The woman who runs it is unbelievable. Very religious woman as well, which is rare. She's a Christian woman in China. She's Chinese.
That is rare.
That's a unicorn that a woman runs the plant and that she's Christian. That's like a double whammy unicorn there. That's like a unicorn with Pegasus wings.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's an amazing relationship, and we have relationships with other, like Avnet is another one. Avnet's they were at 40 billion at one point. I think around 20-30 billion now. But
I mean that's nothing to scoff at.
No, they make everything from like the Raspberry Pis to things that are in Siri or Google, Alexa, stuff like that. So yeah, it's it was a long process. I have an amazing team around me who's built stuff. These are people who worked on the Wii, who worked on the Xbox, who worked on the PlayStation, architecture and stuff. So yeah, I mean, when you have a great team around you and it's a team decision, and it's been amazing. It's been incredible, and the plants are up to about 50 to 60% now.
Okay.
But it's causing us delays. We haven't been able to get out We're not going to be able to manufacture as many as we need to, because the purchase orders are huge, and our window of opportunity is shrinking every day as Cronus gets worse and worse. They a lot of people say, yeah, we're still not out of this yet, so
I sure hope this doesn't hurt you any.
I mean, it does.
I mean, I'm sure it affects a lot of things.
Yeah, it pretty much impacts every industry in the world, for sure.
It really does, yeah.
Or maybe I should say, it doesn't hurt you too bad.
I mean, it will, but that's the thing, though. When you have a great team and you have, it's just a matter of restructuring stuff, right?
Right, yeah.
Because like everything that we do, like investors will put in money when certain milestones are hit, and if those milestones get pushed out because of manufacturing, because of this and that, then that becomes a cash flow issue or whatever. Down the road. So, how do we restructure to make sure that the company doesn't run out of money in 7 months from now? So, and because when money was okay, we're going to have a bunch of money coming in October, November, December. Well, now what if that's only 20% of that?
Right.
Or what if worst case scenario happens and it pushes to 2021? Is the company going to go bankrupt? No. So it's we always have to have backup plans to our backup plans. So restructuring and making sure you have these parachutes becomes a super important thing. But when you have confident AAA people on your team, we always say, look, we're traveling down this road and we don't know what barriers are going to be put in front of us. But what we do know, that everybody on the team is confident and passionate. We know that we're going to make it to the end no matter what. We might not know how we're going to get there in the exact path, but when a barrier gets put in front of us, we're going to figure out to dig under it, how to move around it, climb over it, or smash the fuck through it. There's going to be...
I could go back to what I said at the beginning. The Amico train keeps it rolling.
That's right. It doesn't matter what you throw at us. We are going to win, and we are going to succeed. So
see, this is what the game industry needs: someone with some passion. Finally,
exactly right. I'm sick of this stuff.
Someone with some freaking passion here.
That's what we're doing. And shame on the person or the people who want to tear us down and try to destroy us.
Yeah.
Shame on them. They should be embracing the fact that we love indie developers, that we're rewriting the book on all this stuff, that we want to bring, classic gaming things back into the industry. Shame on them for never, ever even playing the product, but lying to people about it.
Just want to talk about the negative and not the positive. Like,
I was gonna
like
say,
how many units you sold,
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about that.
I was gonna say, like, some people out there, they just want to fail for no real reason, just because, or someone's influencing them to be like,
Again, shame on them for trying to kick the underdog, for trying to bully the people who are trying to make a positive thing in the world, and they want to bully and slander us week to week. Well, shame on those people.
It doesn't matter, because in the
shame
end,
on the haters.
You're gonna get them.
Oh, and that's the best part, is they're going to be eating so much crow. They and they'll never, the haters who are so wrong about us and everything we're doing, they'll never admit that they were wrong.
No,
they'll never admit it. They'll always move the goalpost. Oh, well, they didn't sell 100 million units. They only sold 50 million.
No, they only sold 99. Liar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how it is, though.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm on board. I wasn't necessarily at first, but I didn't really know much about it. But after everything, and certainly in this, I could easily see it, especially at parties and things.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
I mean, without a doubt.
And Tyler here might be maybe the only person that I might get a chance to get some couch co-op with.
Hey, I might make an appearance up there.
I do have a couch. I do. So great,
cool, guys. Well, thanks for having me.
It was great, man.
That's
it was
2.5 hours.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it was awesome. Really, really cool stuff. touched on from the obscure Power Slave to the Amico.
right.
So it's good stuff.
Awesome,
Cool.
guys. Thanks so much for
All right.
having me. Send me a link and I'll blast it around.
I'll talk
All right,
to you
man.
later.
All right, appreciate it.
Awesome, guys.
Talk to you.
Thank you, Tom.